live again. Um, I what I want to try and do, and something that I've kind of challenged myself this year on, is documenting. Um, I feel like that is most definitely a area within my personal trading, as well as like my life, I believe, that I would like to do better. I want to capture moments as well as enjoy being in the moment. And I really think we should try, and I personally want to try and do that, right? Um, and it's because like there's a lot of things that have happened, honestly, just probably a few years ago, or me as a little kid, and I'm seeing pictures and I'm remembering these moments, and I'm saying like, wow, I wish that like I had like my phone camera to take pictures and record and question and do all these things, so I can look back on all of it and really get like a real macro lens on my life, um, and the decisions I've made, and certain things like that, as like a medium of transportation. Um, but that's pretty much that. And actually, that may end up being the next topic of the next podcast. If you have not given the first podcast a listen on life and structure, after this video is going up, I'm pretty sure the audio as well will go up for the following video. So this would probably be just an intro video, and I'm going to also be working on trying to get um, all this, all this, all these like programs everywhere. Like because I know that the podcast currently is up on Spotify, but not on Apple Music, and so on and so forth. So still learning. So we'll see what the heck happens. But I just wanted to kind of talk to you guys and just go through some charts for the week. Got a blank chart for you guys. I changed up my candle colors a little bit. You guys may notice. Um, I'm gonna also post a little mini thread on Twitter as well. But hey, I'll tell you this. Let's get some works going. So you have the daily chart. Something just fell. Got the daily chart right here. Um, And this is one take. Like if this recording stops for whatever reason, I'm gonna be mad. But let's see. So first off rip, really, I'm seeing this like resistance here. Some yeah, roughly right about here. There's some type of continual resistance up there. Maybe we could potentially catch something underneath as well. Maybe. Yeah, this seems quite fair to put it right here, you know, with with supports here, supports here, supports here, support here, almost like a megaphone kind of thing. Um, so now this really gets me to questioning, in this scenario, do you try to put the trade to catch the short down? And this is the Dow, by the way, if you didn't notice, I apologize. So we got that as a rough estimate of what's going on. Maybe you can find some horizontal price values potentially. Um, that might be interesting. This resistance up here, this double bottom kicker kind of thing just occurred, and I did end up trading that going into the new year. That was a nice scenario, and which is, um, I'll just go ahead and annotate that now. Honestly, wish what's actually interesting. If anybody knows how to get the iPad to maybe potentially be like also a mouse where I can write and annotate on things in the screen share, that'd be dope. But that's probably me just being not really knowing how to use my technology to the fullest extent. But yeah, so that's the setup there. We've also, sorry, felt like I was really locked in the studio for a second. But yeah, so this is kind of where we're seeing some things happen. Not much action going on a daily. Let's go into the 4 hour a little bit. Maybe we could try and find some other things. So this area right here, as multiple times where it reached to this rejection, it's gone back down. this rejection price, it's gone back down, right? So maybe we can, if we look at some other stuff, let's see, continue going through, I could draw another line right here potentially because of that whole scenario. These candles are getting a little bit too out of whack. I really like the 4 hour, honestly. The 4 hour looks pretty nice to me right now. So it's reached another resistance up here, it's reaching that area of being overbought. We did kind of sit up in all-time high territories more recently. And we'll see what that goes, right? So potentially the short may occur, right? To really catch this short, if you're looking to really potentially take this trade, like honestly, that's probably a swing trade, definitely. But maybe below this area, can you then confirm, right? You then can confirm that, hey, it broke this area, it's done it here, it's done it here, you know? That a lot of times when it breaks this area with selling pressure, it will end up moving its way down here. So now here's the potential trade, I guess. Let's see, what's that, 550 points or so? That will probably happen in, I would say that's not a normal movement range. Like a normal movement range for Dow, I believe, is about 300 points. I think I have it annotated here somewhere. Um, I'm sitting in the dark. Probably shouldn't. But I kind of like my like caveman things, like I really do like that. But I have Dow at about 350 points as what I consider to be normal movement. And then exorbitant movement days, I have those parameters that potentially upwards of 900 points of movement. And then when it comes to the SPY, normal movement days is roughly about 30 points. If you have in the past couple of days ending last year, 2021, it's a pretty boring movement the last few days, honestly. But yeah, but back to Dow. So if we start to see that selling, it's very potential. We also really could call something. Uh, we could call a double top right here, honestly. You know, in this range where price starts to break down a little bit, as well as the fact that if I were to even go into this candle setup even a little bit more, um, I'll just hide this real quick just so let me just delete that. Like some things it may be potentially setting up as a head and shoulders, some type of, rejection, slightly higher peak, and a potential rejection as well, right? So if I were to try to draw this out, it's very rough, right? It's not as clean. I've seen when I say like shoulders, like them shoulders were broad and defined, like boop, that's the resistance a lot of times. But this could be potentially something looking like that, right? So if we're looking starting to head below, let's see, 3463 maybe, you could probably catch a sweet short, risking about, let's say, 100 points, 100 to even we can even run that risk up a little bit to like 130 just to try and not get popped, wicked back, stopped out. And potentially get that big move, and that's asking for 576 points or so to the downside. So let's see. That wouldn't say that's an exorbitant day, but it's also a little bit more than a normal day, and we would kind of need some news, some external factors to push that volatility to be able to get those extra points potentially within this day at least. So maybe it could happen across 2 days, right? This trade could be a swing trade, where maybe you take some risk off when you break and, you close off some risk here, and then you let the rest roll the remaining, what's this, like extra 250 points, so half the trade, and you could protect your risk that way. Or, yeah, but honestly, I overall, just looking at the charts, just literally resetting, deleting it, and coming back to it, I really do like this potential setup coming up for a short, depending on, again, how things are moving, how how markets are going to be affected by maybe some news, some things that are going on internally. But we'll see, right? We shall see. So that's what I've got set up for the Dow. But also, you also want to keep in mind the potential upside, right? The fact that I could very well be wrong and see what comes next. Now, my question is, or if my thing I want to point out real quick is this, right? Let's say you try to catch up. Whoa, what is all that? Let's say you're trying to catch something to the upside, right? But you have to remember that you got this trend line that extends multiple days over multiple months, right? As a potential rejection point. And that's a stronger rejection, meaning that it's been from this last potential area here at early November last year, early August, mid August last year, dating back to mid-May or early May, you know? So this resistance line is much stronger than something that you may find in the hourly chart that you find a couple times within a day or two, right? You want to keep that in mind. So if I'm looking at this trade, I'm saying, yeah, I may be able to pop up and even get like slightly above this, but where can I quickly always define an area of of profit in this scenario, right? So and I had to look at the ratio and at the RR, and I'm like, well, the RR isn't that hot, it's not that interesting at all, really. Trying to catch her 200 points here. So down to the upside for me currently going into week one, not looking rewarded or anything that I'm really interested in unless unless we get some selling because the risk reward just doesn't make sense there. So we'll see, right? And then if we take a look, okay, this is my current S&P. I have not reset this chart yet, so let's do that. Let's reset this chart. New year, new chart. You know, I like to try to keep it fresh, make sure I don't lock myself into one train of thought as to what happens, right? So S&P, we know this bad boy was a beast. Check out my podcast where I talk about, not too many names were able to outperform the S&P. And the S&P alone, I think, brought in like 27% or 29. I don't know exactly, but something around those lines. Um, I mean, you just start with a simple trend, use a broader time frame to try and find maybe upper bounds trends, potentially something like this, potentially not. Maybe it reshaped and started to look more like this. I like this a little bit more. That's more defined. Um, in a very similar scenario to the Dow, where there's a megaphone kind of deal occurring, and from early April, mid-April, and certain things. But I like this one because on the S&P, there's a really defined neckline right here. I just peeped, so we could just drop that one there, or maybe I could put a little bit up. What do you think? Okay, that's nice there. Again, the double bottom kicker that I noticed across multiple indexes, right? That we could be coming back to something where we get a little bit of a retreat as well. A little bit of a retreat, but we do see this cupping, right? This nice cupping with wicks on the bottom that saved it late Friday trading. And currently we're up, about 12 basis points, but nothing insane, but also not bad at all. We just have to see what happens. If there's going to be more selling, it's going to be something kicking up really. Let's see. If there's anything kicking up in the market, at least when it comes to potentially even like news, what's happening on news. And I tend to actually use Twitter. I think Twitter has done a very, very good job, or at least what it's become, where it starts to really show information more now than just random blurbs of blah, like you know. So I really do actually like financial Twitter and um, people talking about stuff. So let's see what we got here. We've got some news potentially. Let's see what news. I need TweetDeck back actually. I haven't used that in a while. TweetDeck was my jam, man. I was always on TweetDeck. Hmm. That's not that one set up to my other. Gotcha. So we got. I think I was seeing some news about Evergrande again. So maybe that kind of scares the market. So we get something on Dow. What do you think? um, some solar news. Honestly, it seems like we're heading into the new year. Nothing happened, but some fireworks went off. So this is also the problem with doing your research the night before because nothing really happens unless China market goes off crazy. Nothing really happens, but at least you can see visuals of things over a long periods of time and try to see where you can capitalize on that. So I'm thinking beyond this. So how much upside do we see potentially? 30 to 40 points. And downside, the closest to the nearest support really is like right about here, roughly as well. This area is kind of interesting because also this is right here, right? And I could call that some support. And then I start looking. And then as I'm looking, I'm like, okay, this is, come on, 12 points. It is 24 points. So that's 16 points difference each way. Like 16 points is what? Like, what can I make out of 16 points? If I bet X amount on 16 points movement, like, is that worth the risk? When usually my stops on SPY are 15 to 16 points. So I'm not really seeing uh, much risk reward in that scenario off rip. So I'm not even that interested. Yeah. So let's let's just reset, put all this back to the 47, and we'll leave it at that. SPX, the SPY is not showing me some stuff really interesting other than, again, a nice juicy short potentially of a nice 50, 60 point drop. Maybe if I were to try and catch something below these lows, or if I get a good bid in right here, stops just above the entry, and boom, RR is almost 4. Risking 16 points, just like I mentioned. Literally. Literally. I just said, I usually risk about 16 points on SPY, but yep. And it tends to work out like that every single time. And it's crazy because it just shows that the numbers are important to know, you know? So let's draw a fib real quick from the last retracement. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So it's basically just sitting at the 127, and the rejection of the 127 could drop it to the 100 back again. Yeah, up here at 47. So so even if I were to maybe get in a little bit earlier, right? This trade to this, right? The 100%. And where's my stop at? My stop's still 16 points, and now it's 2.4, the RR. Not that good. Not that good. So it would have to be either a better entry, right? To try and catch that. I maybe use these wicks as my support breaking and the breakout of that trade, and maybe risk a few more points above the 127 to kind of get back up into this range. So maybe like 17 to 18 points. That sounds fair. And there are And I would want to exit a little bit earlier than the actual 100%. So maybe, yeah, maybe this trade isn't even the best one, and this may be like a light position, just a easer into the new year, um, with not so much size, at least is what I'd say, right? Because the RR is not that insane, but it is a high probability play, in my opinion. Um, we have not seen much previous history to try and see, where things happen, right? So, like for example, off this, we know that when price reached here and it got exhausted, it fell down here, and the same thing happened here. Where price reached here, it got exhausted and fell down. I like to use that as well because a lot of times in these markets, history repeats itself. Um, so it could be something similar in this scenario. Um, but yeah, now let's take a look at the NAS. Oh, I have not cleaned up my NAS as well. So let's see the visual panel. I'm gonna delete the fibs, delete the trend lines, rectangles, and yeah, bet. So this is a fresh chart. Going back to the daily. Just looking at this, all I see is consolidation. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I pretty like. Well, I shouldn't really say consolidation because it is a wide range, right? Because this is a daily chart. But it's like about 4% slosh, 4 to 5% slosh, right? Going back and forth. But this is what happened over the past like month and a half, no, 2 months, pretty much. Yeah, about 2 months. And it's just been sitting here at this like range, the 16,400 range, and then back down to this 15,600, 15,700 range, right? Where it's done before. It's like it's consolidated in this type of, range before. So if we look at this one's about a 1,500 points range, and this one lasted about 2 to 3 months. So, some range of that nature. And this is another scenario where we see something ranged about 800 points or so, or actually, let me get it from the highs, about 1,000 points or so, and it's been kind of consolidating. So this range right here is really showing how it wants to pick up. It really wants to, and I'll tell you why. Because if I go ahead and I drop these circles, these ellipses, what they call it, whatever. If I drop these circles here, here, there's a double bottom. That double bottom helped, and it could potentially help you catch that out and exit out, right? And if you look right here, now the double bottom all of a sudden looks like a double top because of what just happened here. Boom, and then boom, right? So now you're saying to yourself, like, crap, what's happening? Consolidation, right? Without a true breakout or, breakdown and whatever, you know, comes in as a potential catalyst, it looks like we're going to get some range right here for a little while. I would say so. On the daily, it shows that at least. Just range. And I mean, I'm not saying you can't trade range because people catch the shorts here and drops here all the time, but I've been able to catch a few of those, but I wouldn't say I'm the best at them. I like breakouts a little bit more um, than these trades, but I would tell you right now, being able to catch these are most certainly powerful. Um, so So yeah, so you look at this and you say, all right, double top and double bottom, like what the heck? What could potentially be happening? So now you gotta look within this range to try and see what happens historically on the movements and what could really come from it. Maybe we can start to see some diagonal trends as well. Uh, kinda. Maybe. I'll do this one. I like that because it kind of holds there and then tries to hold with this pin candle, right? And then breaks, but then comes back up and again tries to hold. So I actually really would appreciate that there. Um, and it's coming to some potential wedge, right? So it may make its move. And now that I'm looking at all this, right? Every single chart that I went over,
the entire market looks a little bit overbought, you know? And maybe tomorrow is going to be a red day. Do I know for absolute fact? Hell no. But I can tell you for sure that I got some levels drawn out, and kind of what I'm thinking in terms of range, potential exits, entries, things of that nature. And 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 I can wait and we'll see what happens tomorrow morning. Maybe some news comes out. Maybe that Evergrande news gets a little bit worse. Um, I'm not even fully aware of the extent of the Evergrande news currently, but I do remember hearing about it. Um, and yeah, so so apparently 2 hours ago, Evergrande suspended trading in Hong Kong. Um, let's see what. That's interesting. Oh, Evergrande drops as much as 10%, so it got halted. It seems. Wow. Yeah, it got halted. So it looks like some things, you know, and a lot of people have been saying this since its first issue, like the first go around of the issue, was hey, this may be a sign with our current real estate market as well over here because we were booming in the States for these past couple of months with interest rates being basically zero and that houses were selling because people could relocate. People all of a sudden were living at home for extended periods of time and they were able to move and the buying market just became insane, right? So the sellers were able to take advantage of that and really get in and out of things that one they barely probably had any equity in and made like I was hearing stories of a $500,000 house that was bought potentially like at like maybe the slight recovery of COVID, right? So like maybe like the mid to late 2020, like where things were still bad but not the worst, right? Um, and and they pretty much were able to make like to turn like a $570,000 home into like 900, like insane multiples when you really think about it. Like, and that's probably why Zillow decided, hey, I'm gonna try that iBuying market as well because it just seems like everything, any and everything could sell for at least 30-40% over. And that was most certainly what happened and what really led um, to the current inflation that we're seeing, right? And right now we're not really we're definitely seeing the effects, but my question is, right, we're seeing the effects of, but what's the next step? What's the next two steps of what happens after maybe a potential rate hike happens and inflation goes up a little bit more, right? What happens in a hyperinflationary um, system? And I guess we'll have to see. But as I continue to study economics and study philosophy and study history, I'll potentially be able to come to that conclusion myself. But currently, I don't really have one. I don't. Um, and that's just the truth about it. But that's me pretty much charting up for the first week of the trading year. I think I'll do this every. Hmm, I guess I'll just claim it now. I'll do this every Sunday, going into every week. So I guess I owe you 52 videos in this upcoming year. And we'll see what happens. And then maybe I'll like start to highlight some individual names like Tesla. I'm not really, I have day traded, but yet, see, I kind of charted this up a little bit just thinking about it. Like, hey, maybe if Tesla gets volume, we break out this bull flag. This bull flag movement would be a nice potential trade to catch maybe a swing trade by some like mid-February calls potentially. But the one thing I know I'd say about Tesla that always got me was like when you want it to run, it won't run, and then your options are kind of not in the date when it comes to swings at least. That's what I'd say. So, but yeah, so we'll see. I may add some of these, and Let me know what you guys think of this first week video. I mostly am into trading indexes. I feel like it's much more easier to attach a macro lens to it and then to trade the index. But I do come from, the route of trading individual stocks. I'm talking Micron's been my baby. Micron kind of taught me technical analysis. But yeah, so that's pretty much all for today's episode, or whatever you guys want to call it, if there is anything. Um, and I shall catch you guys in the next one. Signing out, Agent